we saw that outrageousness yesterday, but
Yeah.
there was another story that we saw earlier in the day here in the Metroplex that kind of shook a lot of us to the core because we do have kids in high
Mhm.
school, and unfortunately, there was an incident that occurred. We'll get into that, Jay. I'll kind of let you pull up an article or something on that just to kind of so we can get the names and stuff if they've released all that. But just kind of transitioning over though, the reason why we're talking about that is we saw that incident take place that we'll get into shortly. But what we also saw earlier in the week was Tennessee pass a bill, I believe, that said, "Hey, we need to empower the teachers to have firearms in classrooms." And I have a I'm not one to advocate guns, but I'm also not one that's like take everybody's guns away. Like to me, you got one, your business. I that's not anything that I'm particularly interested in. But I'll hop over to you, Julio. Like, what do you think about that? About allowing teachers to have access to firearms within a school building.
I mean, for me, as a person that does support gun ownership, for me, it's a no brainer. I think that it's a great idea, and the reason for that is we've seen, in the past and here recently, especially like you just said, that affected us in the Metroplex area. That we need that kind of, I guess you could say, security, like a kind of a security blanket. For me, it's more or less you want to put those kinds of situations to rest, and the best way to do that is if somebody that wants to cause harm or has that thought process that they want to cause harm to a school or want to do something at a school, if they're already aware that the teachers there are carrying, or if they already have that knowledge ahead of time, how much more would that prevent people from trying to do something like that? And to me, it's like that's a little bit of a deterrent, because now you're faced with however many teachers are at the school, whether it be 100, whether it be 50, whether it be 1,000 teachers that are listed at the school, that all are allowed to carry weapons, which we know for a fact that not everyone is going to carry, because there's always that fine line that people walk, right? Like you just said earlier, you don't really support it, but you're not really against it, things of that nature. So there's people on both sides, right? But for me, I think it works as a deterrent, because if you know that certain teachers are carrying weapons in school, right, they have a better opportunity, not only one, to be able to protect the kids quicker, because how long does how long do first responders normally take to get to a school to be able to get a hold of the situation or put the situation under control? By that time, we've heard a lot of horror stories from throughout the years, basically, of you know shooters getting to a school, and then all of a sudden, their school's on lockdown. It's 4 or 5 hour standoff, 6 hour standoff. People get shot, people get killed, that are innocent people. And we're trying to figure out, okay, how do we solve the situation? Look at the situation. I can't even remember what city it was in, where the cops showed up, and kids were
It was
already.
it was Uvalde, I think it was last
Uvalde,
year.
yeah. There you go. Last year. Yeah. Where the cops showed up and they were trying to negotiate and trying to figure out what the hell's going on. And, people are getting injured. People are getting hurt. People are getting killed at some point. So I believe, in my opinion, is that it's a great idea, because then you put the power in the teacher's hands. If they're certified, if they have their licenses, if they have all the proper training and all that stuff, then yes, it helps us save lives, as opposed to add to the lives taken from something that somebody does that's so stupid and it makes
Mm.
zero sense why they would do something like that. So again, I support it 100%. I would hope that a lot of other states piggyback off of that and also try to pass something along the same lines for that, just for our children's sake. Because I'm pretty sure that all of us here are parents. If we were put in a situation where we get a phone call from one of our kids saying, "Hey, there's a live shooter here at the school. They got us hunkered down inside the classroom," the first thing we're going to do is we're going to panic. We're going to try to run over there. Then the cops are going to try to stop us to keep us from going into the building to get our kids. It just turns into a shit show, and I think it avoids that. So
Yeah.
that's my opinion on it.
So just a bit of a clarification. So it says a new Tennessee bill passed on April 23rd, and it paves the way for teachers and staff to carry concealed guns in schools. Teachers who wish to carry a gun in the classroom have to meet several conditions, and they have to work for a school district that allows them to do so. So it's not necessarily, well, you're in Tennessee, you get to. I mean, you have to work in the school zone that does allow it, and there's a little bit more that they're trying to, you know, navigate their way through. So what about you, Jay? As far as allowing teachers and staff to carry concealed handguns in schools, like, are you for that? Do you think that's a smart thing? Do you think no? What's your
Uh,
thoughts, bro?
I'm always of the mindset of stay ready so you don't have to get ready. And I think as long as you are a responsible gun owner and take the classes and stuff, and you feel comfortable, if you do decide to conceal carry, do so. Um, if you feel like you're the type that would run towards danger instead of from it, do so. You could probably save some lives. Um, you might have some PTSD later on in life from it, but at least you would have saved um countless
Countless
number
lives.
of faculty members, your friends, the kids that you teach. Um, I have family in Tennessee. I think both of my aunts are teachers. One, they may be retired by now, but even if they're not, um, you know, it, I would rather them be safe, knowing that someone in that school has a gun in case something happens.
Mhm.
I mean, we at Grand Prairie, Hooper wasn't always around. Like I mean, his office was down there by the whole other side of the school, and we know where the fights broke out. His office was nowhere near the cafeteria, so um, I mean, it's crazy. Do I think teachers should carry? Yeah, I do. My my uncle that lives in Tennessee as well. That dude has an arsenal of guns, and he conceal carries every day. I wish I would conceal carry every day, but I don't. Um, I should. I need to get on that. Um, but like Julio said, if you are competent enough to do so, do so. If now don't if you're scared and shaking and you don't know how to handle a gun, then that's not for you.
Mhm.
You're not built for that. So don't even try it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know what else to say about it. It's sad. It's it's sad. I mean, I don't know if y'all want to get on to the Arlington thing or not yet, but well, I mean, I guess we'll get your perspective, Joe, before we move on to that.
Yeah, man, I'm kind of I'm on the devil's advocate side of that. As far as I understand the thinking behind, hey, if we're more equipped, we're better equipped.
Yeah.
But the flip side of that to me is, what happens if you get a student that's like, I know this teacher carries a weapon and he overpowers that teacher, or a group of kids overpowers that teacher and now they have a handgun in school. To
I
me,
mean,
that's that I always go worst case scenario. Like,
sure, but
Mhm.
because in that situation, now you're empowering. If there was one or two guns in the school, and now we got 25 to 50 guns in the school,
I don't think it's gonna be like that. I
you're
think
you're
it's
introducing a variable that you could otherwise minimize and reduce.
I I get that, and I hear you on that. I get what you're saying, but I don't think it's gonna be like that. I think it's gonna be a set amount of people. It's gonna be controlled. It's not gonna be like, well, you got your license, you can carry, and every teacher in there is carrying.
Right.
I'm sure there's probably gonna be off days or like block schedule days where this teacher carries, this one doesn't, then it flips to where you don't know. You don't know who's carrying or not,
Right.
you know? So if they're smart about it, they'll do it that way.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. I mean, that I just, to me, I don't understand. Like, we had the conversation of allowing your kids to smoke and drink in front of you, and I was like, I don't drink in front of my kids. I would never want my kids to drink in front of me.
Mhm.
So what do? I try to reduce the
The exposure.
visibility and that very right, that exposure to, hey, there's cigarettes in the house, there's a vape in the house. Now I do have bottles of alcohol that I don't drink, but that's how I know that they're not tampered with. I don't drink, so uh, but I to me that would be my biggest concern, and I do like the fact that there's a lot of different factors that teachers are going to have to go through in order to be able to conceal carry.
Mhm.
But ultimately, my fear is you're adding a different element to that school that otherwise shouldn't be there. I mean, why not just
But
bring
there,
in metal detectors and clear backpacks? And
but there
hey,
again, I mean, that's one of those things to where, it speaks to the different times that we live in because when you think about it, and we think about it from our perspective, or at least I think about it from my perspective, growing up, we didn't have those type of problems. We had problems to the point to where we had an issue with a student, or we had an issue with a peer, I should say, not even a student, but a peer that we had in school. We would solve them with these. That's what we would solve them with. Now it's gotten to the point to where kids have that access to deadlier weapons and are aware of how to use these weapons and what to do with them and how to utilize them and things of that nature. To me, it seems to me like because of the different time that we live in and all the things that we've gone through in Uvalde and at Bowie at other schools throughout the nation, you hear of these mass murders or things happening at different schools because a kid's depressed or things of that nature, and they put
Columbine,
program yeah they put programs in place where it's supposed to be able to outreach to those kids that feel that way and to help them, and yet we're still seeing the same number of school shootings, the same number of things happening in schools that shouldn't be happening, right? And we went through a time where we had metal detectors at school, where we had to walk through metal detectors and had to have certain things in order for us to be able to go through school. And it's one of those things that's just an ongoing process. It grows and grows and grows and it changes from year to year. So for me, it's like I hear what you're saying, Joe, and you have a very valid point. Looking at it, worst case scenario, if a group of students decides that they want to do something to the school and they know of a teacher that is carrying a weapon and they decide to overpower him whatever the case may be. But I think that you also have to kind of consider, contingencies that the school might put in place, kind of like to what Jay was talking about, having different schedules, having teachers rotate who carries weapons, who doesn't. Because as we all know, people that are true gun owners that have their certifications, that have gone through all the training, that have done all those things, not everybody feels comfortable taking their weapon out every single day. It's not like as soon as you get a concealed carry license, like you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to take my gun out with me every day now because I have a concealed carry license. It's one of those things that you want to get it because a lot of gun owners get them because they want to be able to have that option should they need to have that option, but they don't necessarily practice that option every day. Now, you will have those teachers that are opposed to it. They're going to say, no, I'm not going to take my weapon to school. I'm not going to put myself in that situation. And you're going to have other teachers that are going to say, yeah, I'm going to, if they ask me to volunteer and be like one of the teachers this week or this month to be able to carry my weapon this month or this week, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do that for the school. But not everybody's going to be on that same wavelength. So I think that a lot of it will have to there's going to have to be further discussion. I like the fact that they passed the law that they're allowing schools to do that, but I think that it's ultimately it would be up to the school district, up to the school in general to come up with a game plan as to, okay, how are we going to do this? Because I'm pretty sure that they're thinking the same thing that we're thinking. What is the worst case scenario? What is going to happen if said students, a group of 10 students decides to try to run over this teacher because they know that they carry all the time? They're going to think of all those scenarios and put contingencies in place to be able to counteract those scenarios. So it just all depends on how each school district, individual school takes those contingency plans and puts them in place in order for it to make it a safe environment still for the students as they're going to school.
Yep. Not only like Uvalde, that can't happen again.
No,
It
man.
just can't. And like, a big part of Uvalde was the cops didn't want to go in there.
Yeah.
Or they felt they weren't prepared to go in there. You have a gun, he has a gun, go in there, do your job, do what you're supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't want to. Maybe there are some teachers who are like, I'm tired of hearing kids getting killed. I'm going to take matters into my own hands since cops don't want to do it. So,
yeah. So the reason why we kind of bring this up is to kind of move into what happened in the DFW yesterday. I saw that you had pulled it up, Jay. We'll
Wednesday.
pull up that Wednesday.
Wednesday, yeah.
I don't know if
And
you
so,
want to run this video or if you just want to read it.
yeah, bro, we can run the video courtesy of Fox 4.
Fox 4 News.
The next time you look at your budget and you see those
we didn't screen this, so give me a second.
Yeah, you're good.
Y'all hear that? No.
Between two students on campus.
An 18-year-old died. A 17-year-old is behind bars, and police are still looking for the gun used in the shooting. Fox 4's Lori Brown live in Arlington with the story. Lori.
Heather, Bowie High School will remain closed for another day tomorrow, but a spokeswoman says that counselors will be available here from 9 a.m. until noon for students and staff, as well as all of next week. A spokesman for Arlington Police credited witnesses for helping officers to find 17-year-old Julian Howard. Police say Howard shot 18-year-old Latavian Barnes 5 to 6 times Wednesday afternoon outside a school portable. Police say witnesses provided a physical description of the suspect. Officers searched the area and found Howard 20 minutes later, just east of the school, the baseball field and a parking lot. Wednesday, police could not say where the gun had been prior to the shooting.
So do you believe he got the gun outside potentially from like a car, or like was it ever in the school, do you know?
I think those are the questions that our detectives want to answer.
Arlington ISD is now reviewing security footage to try to determine if the gun was ever brought inside Bowie High School, which does have metal detectors. Howard is charged with murder, and police say he also had a THC cartridge with him, adding possession of a controlled substance to the criminal counts. Police say they don't yet know how he obtained the gun because they are still searching for it. FBI Special Agent in Charge Chad Yarbrough released a statement Thursday echoing that of the Arlington Police Chief. FBI Dallas always stands ready to support investigations and respond to potential threats throughout the territory we serve, but our greatest need is to harness the power of community support. Wednesday, Chief Al Jones implored people to report concerning behavior.
But we can't do this great work by ourselves. We need everyone to help us. If you own a firearm, we need you to properly secure it so it doesn't end up in the hands of kids.
Police say the motive for the shooting is still unclear. Arlington ISD is conducting a review of the incident. Students can come to pick up belongings between 9 and 10:30 a.m. tomorrow. Heather.
And see, and that's something that we were just talking about too, is adding more security measures, right? Whether it be clear backpacks or metal detectors or things of that nature. And yet this school is equipped with metal detectors and things of that nature. And this kind of thing still tends to happen. So, oh man, it's something rough to hear. And then especially when you hear testimonies from the kids after the fact, I'm pretty sure that those will come out sometime soon, to where how they felt about the whole situation, what kind of trauma it causes with kids. Something that hit close to home with me today, because I have, as you guys both know, I have teenage daughters, and one of my daughters has been talking about being homeschooled. And I was, for me, it's always been a question as to why. What's the big deal with homeschool? Why not want to go to school and participate in the school events and things of that nature? And one of the things that came out that was very surprising to me, and it's kind of weird that we're talking about it today, but one of the things that came out of her mouth was like, I won't get killed. And I'm like, why would you think that you would get killed at school? And she's like, well, you hear all these stories about, other schools being in school shootings and things of that nature. And I'm like, so you really sit here and think about, a possible, it's never happened in our area, in our district, which I'm not saying not to be prepared for something like that, right? But for that to be in a kid's mind that hasn't even experienced it yet, I can only imagine the thought process that goes into the kids that go through something like that, go through a traumatic experience, to where they're part of that experience. And they're thinking about it in the way that they found it. And, some of those kids may have been close to the kid that got killed. Some of those kids may have not been, but still you have to live with that because you went through that experience. And for somebody that's never experienced it before, even been in that type of environment to where it would be something that's natural, it's weird to hear it from my kids to be like, well, at least if I'm homeschooled, I don't have to worry about getting shot. How the hell is that even a subject or something that's even brought up, unless it's a problem that we're going through right now and that we're facing in this nation?
Bullied maybe, but not shot, right? At home school.
Yeah, I understand that. Bullying is one thing, but being shot. I mean, if I had to worry about that
Hold
shit
on.
when I was growing up, that'd be something completely different, bro.
Now we don't condone bullying. Let's just put that out there right now.
No,
Yeah,
I'm
We
just
don't
saying
condone it.
Julio's daughter's got a good chance of getting bullied at homeschool rather than
yeah,
you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. But to me, bro, like it's funny that you say that, because my daughter, when she heard that, she kind of asked me the same thing, not about being homeschooled, but like she was like, "Dad, do you worry about me when y'all drop us off in the morning?" I'm like, honestly, it doesn't cross my mind. It's not on my
yeah.
mind. I said, because we all kind of go into it with the mentality of that will never happen to us. That's not something we
Yeah.
need to worry about, right?
Mhm.
And then you
Well,
see some bullshit like this, bro, and it's like,
Yeah.
dog,
hey, I
why do
don't know.
we why?
I don't know if you
Yeah.
remember this, but when Columbine happened, right after, GP had a couple close calls with bomb threats and people calling up there saying that they had a gun and all that. I don't know if you remember
But
that, Joe. That was our junior year, so
yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like that was to me, that was like silly shit. Like they were
Yeah,
just
but we don't
kind of
you didn't know.
right. But
Especially
when we heard Columbine, that was like, oh shit. Who would
yeah,
even think about doing some shit like that, bro? Like,
yeah,
yeah,
how does that ever come to your mind? And now, like, you see it more and more in school, and I'm like, why are we resorting to this? And it's sad that
exactly.
my daughter was like, "Did y'all ever think about stuff like that?" I was like, "No." I was like, when
No,
Columbine happened, it was a shock. Like, it
yeah,
stunned everybody because nobody would have
mhm,
ever thought, "Hey, we need to do some crazy stuff like that." I'm like, now it's. I'm not gonna say it's normal because nothing about that act is normal, but it's more commonplace to
commonplace.
read
Yeah,
stories like that, to see tragedies like this unfold, and unfortunately, we see a lot of that in Texas, and we are
a
yeah,
lot, a
big
lot.
advocates of open carry
yeah,
and lenient gun laws and things like that. Again, I'm not going to get into the politicals. I'm not going to
mhm,
get into hey, take guns, keep guns. That's not my jam. But I just say we have to do something about introducing that element. People at home, like the officer said, lock your shit away. If you're gonna have it, be responsible. Like, don't just leave that shit lying around where a kid's gonna get into it. He's had a bad day, some crazy shit goes down, and he just decides, you know what, today's the day. I'm gonna
True.
make it happen.
But
Like,
yeah,
the crazy thing is, we don't know why. We don't know why it happened. We don't know. There's no excuse for it, but we don't know if they got into a fight and then, like, that day, that kid decided, hey, I'm gonna go get a gun, and it wasn't his parents, it wasn't
yeah,
anybody else's. He went and bought it and did what he did. We don't know.
yeah.
So,
And I think that also speaks volumes on, I think we talked about this. I want to say last week, or we might have touched on it last week. But with the kid or I heard another story. I apologize. I don't think we talked about it. I think we talked about it off air, but it was about that kid that hit the other 12-year-old with the Stanley Cup, beating that kid with
oh
a
yeah,
Stanley Cup. You know,
yeah,
it's the same thing, because when you think about it, you can talk about it as much as you want and you can bring it to people's attention, but if those people, the people that are in charge, that are supposedly in charge of you, if they're not taking those threats serious enough, then, and sometimes I think it plays both ways, right? It's like a seesaw, because you think about it, and at times, as an adult, and as a I guess you, whatever you want to call it, a teacher or whatever, if you hear something like that, you're like, oh, that's not going to happen. Nothing's going to happen. Everything's going to be okay. Things of that nature. And you kind of blow it off. And that's what it sounds like. And that's what it feels like, as when you're that child trying to report something that, hey, you know what, I heard this or I saw this. And a lot of times you'll get a lot of that. Because I've heard it from my kids, where they come home and they're like, well, I said something to so and so, and they really just said, oh, it won't happen. They won't get beat up, or this fight won't happen, or things of that nature. And then, 3 or 4 hours later, somebody's getting their head beat in. And it's like, I think everybody needs to be held accountable in those situations, because, if a child is reporting something to you, I understand that they're a kid and they're a child. And a lot of times as adults, we tend to look the other way, or just be like, you're overreacting, or you're overreaching, or you're not, making sense right now. That's not going to happen, things of that nature. But if we don't start taking those kind of warnings seriously enough, to the point to where we're like, you know what, even though it might not seem like it's a big deal, let's figure this out. Let's find out why you're saying this. Why are you telling me these things? And why are you reporting this? And now I'm going to take my time to go okay, let's figure this out. Why is this happening? Why are you telling me this? So that way it kind of avoids all the extra stuff, because then you hear these stories after the fact a lot of times where they're like, well, I said something to the teacher, but they kind of just, oh, it'll be okay. Nothing's going to happen. Everything's going to be all right. And then all of a sudden something happens, and then you're like, I did say something, but nobody listened.
Yeah,
And
they
it
were
turns into that.
dismissive of me. They just kind
Yeah.
of brushed me off, like
Yeah.
whatever. No, I agree, man. We all need to do our part. With that being said, prayers up for the victim, for
Yeah.
Yes.
the assailant's family, the victim's
Yep.
family.
The
Like,
Barnes family.
you your kid, shoot somebody. I'm sure if the parents gave a damn at all, you know what I'm saying? Like, if they're any kind of good parents, they're gonna be hurting, bro. They're gonna be like,
Yeah.
how did this happen? And they're grieving. They're going through it as well because their son did something like that. So we can't forget
Mhm.
about them. And even the guy that shot, bro, like, prayers up to him, because I know
He's
Yeah.
lost
whatever
right
it
now.
was, yeah,
Yeah.
he was struggling to
Yeah.
get to that point where he decided that was the action that needed to be taken.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, here we are. So
Yeah.
with that being said, boys, thank y'all so much for just taking the time once again to share your thoughts with me. Everybody at home, we hope you enjoyed it. uh, I know it's not always easy, some of the subjects we talk about to kind of discuss and listen to, but we do thank you so much for your continued support. And we will catch you next week. Until then, peace.
Peace.
What's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like and subscribe buttons below. And remember, on the burner account, anything goes.